concept, they just don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. The Jewish people are still waiting for their Messiah. Okay. Now the problem is, in my view, is that
Okay.
if and when he comes, it's going to be the same argument that was when Jesus was preaching. Okay.
Yeah.
That the same people who would want to follow and believe what he's saying will follow him, and the same non-believers will continue to say, no, we have to wait. We have to, which just tells me that, you know, that there is, what is that? That there is no, they never, it's like there never will be a Messiah, you know,
Whoa,
because
whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. You gave me like two different thoughts there. Obviously, Orthodox Judaism is waiting for a Messiah, correct?
right. Well, all of Judaism is waiting for a Messiah.
Okay. Now, hold on to that. Hold on to your seats. This gets a little bumpy because here is, according to, this is aish.com. This is a Jewish website. And
I know. I get their material.
Okay, great. This supports Israel and that they support Jewish belief. Okay, so this is real authentic. I'm not on some Christian website. This is why Jews do not accept Jesus as a Messiah. And I want you to listen to this because they do, Mark, misunderstand the concept of the Messiah. They don't fully understand the Messiah. Watch. I'm going to tell you why. Number one, Jesus did not fulfill the messianic prophecies. Two, Jesus did not embody the personal qualifications of the Messiah. Three, biblical verses referring to Jesus as are mistranslations. Four, Jewish belief is based on national revelation, which could be very subjective, being that you have three types of Jews out there, all right? Here are the Bible verses that they're referring to. What is the messianic purpose to accomplish? One of the central themes of biblical prophecy is the promise of future age of perfection characterized by universal peace and recognition of God. They give Isaiah 2, Zephaniah 3, Hosea 2, Amos 9, Micah 4, Zechariah 8, Jeremiah 31. Okay, so I'm not making stuff up. These are Bible verses. Now, here's what they think the Messiah will accomplish. This is what you guys are waiting for. A, build the third temple, Ezekiel 37:26 through 28.
Right.
B, gather all the Jews will be back together in the land of Israel, Isaiah 43:5 and 6. C, usher in an era of world peace, end of hatred, oppression, suffering, and no more war. D, spread universal knowledge of God and of Israel, which will unite humanity as one. Now, it's interesting because Israel's become a lot more liberal over the years, or not Israel, Judaism has become a lot more liberal over the years. You can't really talk to a Jew and get the same, to two different Jews and get the same answer nowadays. It's very, very much distorted truth. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up to you is because this particular person, who's a Jew, has picked and chosen what a Messiah would be. Now, there are several Bible verses, several. In the Old Testament by itself, there are 300 prophecies. This guy only has 4 prophecies concerning the Messiah when there are 300. Now, it doesn't mean that Jesus didn't fulfill all 300. In fact, we're still waiting for him to fulfill some of them. But the point is I think it's interesting that this guy, among other Orthodox Jews, okay, and Judaism, will characterize the Messiah into 4 prophecies. when Jesus fulfilled 300. So I would say the Messiah of the Old Testament, let's take Jesus and put him just off to the side for a minute. I'm talking to you guys now. You're pretty liberal. You're not sure which religion is true. I get it. Okay. Judaism is getting it wrong because they're not fully engaging what the Old Testament has to say about the Messiah. Therefore, it invalidates their religion to the highest point. I mean, God's redemption through a Messiah is big. It gives them their purpose. Okay? The Jews have a specific purpose. What they're supposed to accomplish will the Messiah thing is part of that. And if you get that wrong, how much more of it did you have wrong? So I say this is big. This is big. Be careful what you're listening to, Mark, really honestly. But I would ask that rabbi, so what is the Messiah going to accomplish? And if he gives you just 4 general things, if he doesn't spew out 300 of them, then he's not really telling you the Messiah from the Old Testament. The Old Testament tells us where the Messiah would live, what will happen to him. How come they never go to Isaiah 53? That's one of the most clearest messianic prophecies in all of Scripture. You want to know why they don't use Isaiah 53? Because
they do use
Isaiah 53. The Messiah suffers. He suffers and is crucified, and they don't like that. They don't want to think of their Messiah, who is a false concept in their eyes, because they're waiting for somebody else. Here's what's going to happen, you guys. The person who builds the third temple is the Antichrist, and God allows it.
Real quickly over here, we have a Mary, who's one of our listeners in the chat room.
Is that Mary Francis?
I don't think so.
Oh, Mary?
Because we had a Mary a long time ago.
No, I don't think it's the same Mary Francis. It says why she's saying no, it's not Mary Francis, which I didn't think so. Why don't Jews still observe the sacrificial laws?
They don't. They don't observe the sacrificial.
No, that's what she wants to know. She wants to know why they don't.
Yeah, they don't. They don't because they don't have the temple. I actually asked an Orthodox Jewish man. I was in a temple just recently, or not a temple, a synagogue here in Rochester, and I had asked them, what do you guys do now that you don't have a temple to sacrifice? I really wanted to chat with him more because, boy, what a concept, sacrifice. Oh, my goodness. So he said they allegorize it by prayer. They don't, and I'm sure you know that, Mark and Felix. You guys don't have a sacrificial system anymore. It was torn down in 70 AD. But when that third temple gets built, they'll start those sacrifices all over again. But right now it's just through prayer.
Okay, right.
You agree, Mark?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, I think Mary disagrees, but
what did she say?
I don't know. She hasn't written anything.
Close yet so far away. I mean, Judaism is one of those fascinating religions. It really is. It's one of my favorites, just because it's so close. You guys are like touching the Messiah, but rejecting him with your mouth. It's like you see it because you're holding the Torah in your hand, but you don't because the Spirit is dead in you. You're not alive. Jesus rebuked the Jews. He said that you're not Abraham's children in the spiritual sense. You might be related to him, but you're not really God's children because you would have accepted me as the one whom God sent. But because you reject me, you're not of Abraham's seed. He was talking spiritually, and they got really upset at him for saying that. Guys, my goodness, Judaism is one of those religions that's like you're touching the hem of Jesus' garment and then letting go, like, that's not him.
All right, listen, Mary
it's so evident.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mary just added Until the Jews accept Jesus as the Messiah, I'm afraid we'll continue to have suffering.
Yeah.
That's what Mary was telling us.
Well, it's a heavy burden to put on a group of people.
Right?
So, I mean, really.
Well, God shows oppression. Yeah. Mm.
I used to have a
Tragic
neighbor.
thing, man.
I used to have a neighbor that was born again, and she used to tell me how lucky I was to be Jewish because I
Oh,
was
why?
God's
Well, I mean,
God's
neighbors.
chosen children. And she basically said the same thing you did. She said that was so close to accepting, but we don't. What can I say?
Yeah, it's one of those sad. When I was in the synagogue recently, it was a very orthodox. I mean, like, you know,
Were the
the
men and women
Pentateuch
sitting
reading
separately?
type of synagogue. What's
Were,
that?
were the men and women seated separately?
Well, no, I didn't go in.
Oh,
I went to go in for my job. I wasn't there when the congregation was there. But I did meet. So I met this guy named Bob, and he was wearing a yarmulke on his head, and I think it's called a yarmulke, right?
a
The
yarmulke.
cap you put on your head.
It's a yarmulke.
A yarmulke. I apologize. I didn't do that
No,
on
that's all
purpose. I
right.
really
That's all right.
thought it was a yarmulke. So the yarmulke on his head, and I was dying to talk to him. Of course, I'm sitting here, and I was in here that looked like the temple. Just whoa! I was just enthralled by what I was looking at. I saw the prayer room, and I saw the hand washing sink, and I saw the congregational room where they read from the scrolls you guys have in your practice, and I was asking him questions, and he said something that absolutely floored me. He began to tell me that Jews, or at least for him, okay, they don't look at Judaism as an objective religion. In other words, there could be other answers. But God, that's not what God had called Jewish people to do originally. I can't believe how far Judaism has come. Now it's almost like a complete rejection of anything objective. It's really subjective. There could be multiple answers, or maybe there's multiple paths. And although they don't practice Christianity, they respect the Christians because, they support Israel. A lot of Christians do. A lot of evangelicals support Israel, so they like that. But the religion itself has become it's always been what Jesus said, just a dead practice. Its works are stinky to God. God said that. He goes, I can't. He said it in the Old Testament. He goes, your burnt offerings are disgrace to me. I don't even want your burnt offerings. I don't want anything because you don't get it. And this is in the Old Testament. This is God rebuking people in the Old Testament. I can't imagine now. I'm not saying all this to steal anybody's faith here. What I'm saying this for is because, golly, if you would just look at what the Old Testament represents by itself, you would be craving the New Testament, because the New Testament is the answers to all the mystery in the Old Testament. Here you have all these mysteries, all the prophets. They're speaking of this mystery age and the Messiah this and the Messiah that and this kingdom this and the kingdom that. Then Jesus comes along and they crucify him. They kill him because they rejected him completely. And that's where mankind is with Jesus. They don't want Christ. They don't want God. Everybody has a problem with God, because if you're held accountable to your sins, well, then you can't really live life the way you want. You're going to be tied down. So that's why people reject God, because ultimately they want to follow their own will. And Judaism is just unfortunately, another religion in the world that has lost its complete meaning out of the Old Testament. But yet they're reading the Old Testament. That's what drives me crazy. Sorry to ramble. Go ahead.
Mary had a couple of quick comments between